Today we're going to be looking at my experiences using the Nexus add-on with Blender and Octane. Most people think that these high-end physics simulations only work outside of the box with cycles, and Octane just can't translate these complex geometry node data setups and things like that. But the truth is, all it takes is a single proximity checkbox and a simple Vertex attributes trick to get gorgeous, bio-worthy fluid simulations and render particles. My name is Patrick LeVar. I've been learning Blender Octane for the last 6 years and sharing everything on this YouTube channel. If you guys are deeper or want to go deeper into Blender Octane, check a link down below. I have a 7-day free 7-day free trial to my Blender Octane Skool community for more serious Octane users. All right, so the first one that I did was this Viscous-like, basically simulation, very gooey-like. You have to basically restart it. But if you look on the Nexus in here, these are basically all the things that I used here. Again, following the tutorial, because I remember this add-on being for Cinema 4D a long time ago, X Particles, and like that was something I could just never afford, and I didn't even have a GPU to run Octane, so it's kind of fun to get back to this, to finally get my hands on it and play with it. So I basically had the NX fluid with a mesher, with a collider, emitter, and then the gravity, very self-explanatory. And then like they got so much stuff here. If you look here at all the things, absolutely top end A plus add-on here. We can quickly look at the animation that I had did here. Here was the animation. It came out gorgeous. Again, like once you've got the mesher in there and it makes it to mesh, you're free to put any type of material on, so it doesn't necessarily have to be cycles, right? So I was really kind of leery at first, like, is this going to work with Octane? And after I jumped in and actually did the tutorial, and then like once they got to the material part and I saw what they were doing, I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to work for Octane, because they weren't doing anything crazy that was like only exclusive to cycles. Like it's just a basic part, it's just a basic material. So to quickly show you this material, like I let it run for a long time, and you can see the bounding box now. You can literally see quickly to show you the settings here. If I click over here on the side, I have no idea about these settings. I just followed the tutorial. It looks complex, but then when I was literally following along with them, it made a lot of sense on some of the stuff that was very, very simple and easy, and all these extra modifiers that you can do. The add-on is A+. Like again, I can't hype it enough. And then here's the collider. It makes sense, you know, choose your collider. I wanted Suzanne to be the collider, the floor to be collider, bounce, and then, you know, and then here's the emitter, and then you can go to the display, changing all the display colors and things like that. The gravity. At the time when I did this, I did not know how to do a cache. Now I know. You can come in here and literally just bring in a Nexus cacher and then set up your cache and then export that out. And we can even, when you do that, you can set the speed for that so you can get that motion blur on things. One thing I did do when in Octane, again, I don't know if it mattered, but I always do it out of habit because I know with deforming mesh. Once I clicked on the mesh, I went into the settings here and I made it a reshapeable proxy. I don't know if it was needed, but typically most of the time when you're taking a mesh and you're deforming it and then you hit render, it doesn't move. It just is frozen. And this is why, because you basically need to set it to reshapeable proxy. Octane reloads the full mesh and evaluates every frame. This is useful for deforming mesh types like fluid. So I just ticked it on because I knew that's what I did in the past. We quickly look at the shader really fast. If I jump over to the shader, this shader here was very simple, nothing crazy. Again, it was just a shader that I had built in my Blender Octane community. There is a template that I made for subsurface material. Let me show you that. Again, for those of you who are watching this video, there is a link. You can get a 7-day free trial to my Blender Octane Skool community. If you jump into the classroom and you go to the Blender 101 guide, and we go down here to, I think I had materials, right here, material setups, and you go in here, material setup template. And this was just literally for people who are coming over from cycles and you're like, how do I set up glass, or how do I set up metal? How do you set up subsurface? So I literally just followed this very simple setup here on how to get a subsurface really quickly using a random walk. And this just got me in the general ballpark. And then after that, I went in and started dialing in some more settings of how I wanted. Let me just go ahead and quickly animate a little bit of this here so we can get some in the scene, and then I can show you what it looks like in render mode. So here is the material, just a nice little subsurface. Again, when you got subsurface, you want to get some of that backlighting so the light can go through that to show off the subsurface. So you can see my lighting is very simple. I just got a light here at the top, basically a 2-point lighting setup with a distorted I had this HDRI just to fill in some areas, but these were the two main lights here shooting from the side, and then here is the material. So I basically had a universal material with an RGB color plugged into the transmission set to the default like 0.7 white, or just slightly off from top white. Then I put my blue color inside of here on the albedo. Then you can see here GGX energy preserve. Roughness, I went a little bit higher on the roughness, 5.2. And then what I did was I brought in some coating, changed this from black to white, added a little bit of coating roughness on there to give it the shininess, then adding in the random walk with the density of 0.5. Again, this is all going to be varied about depending on your scene, your thickness of your material and stuff like that. And then other than that, that was basically it. It's a very simple setup for the material, and it looks absolutely gorgeous here. Now you can see right now it's kind of like pausing it a little bit. It is, I would say it is heavy, and it's not heavy. For me, I think once you start making the mesh, things start to lag a little bit. Is it going to crash? I'm not sure if it's going to crash. I kind of was hitting the button too many times, honestly. I hit back like 3 times, and typically when you do it the one time, if you just wait, it will come over. But once you start randomly, why is it not working? You're just putting more inputs in, and it starts to bog. So I think it's going to crash right now. And right before I was about to restart it, it came through. So there it is. So again, like, it did get a little laggy for me, but it's interesting. It's a different type of lag. It's not like a laggy viewport. Like, the viewport is fine and snappy, but when I go to make changes, things kind of tend to pause for a little bit. And it's like, I guess it's doing its calculation and then bringing things back in. So I after a while, like, I'll start to turn some of this stuff off that's not needed. In this case, like, see, when I bring in the mesher, that's when things really slow down. And it makes sense because now we got a lot of geometry coming inside here. And then like, even like, to get that particle to look nice and juicy, you got to have a high poly count. So that's when things start to lag a little bit. So, but I think this is going to happen with anything. It doesn't matter if you're using Cycles or Octane, even probably Eevee, you're still going to get a little bit of lag here and there. So unfortunately, that's the beast of the nature of when you start playing with particles and fluid sims like that too. All right, so I want to load up another file that I also did. So this was kind of like the viscous-like, honey-like fluid sim. Now this one here was the follow a curve animation, basically making the same another fluid, but that's following a curve. You can see here is the emitter and is pumping out. This one was I did have some issues with motion blur here. So to me already, it still looks like the motion blur is a little bit high because again, I followed the tutorial and the values that they used did not match the values for Octane camera, which I kind of expected because they never do. It was really cool tutorial to again, trying to figure out, can I get this thing to work with Octane and have no problems with it here. Now this time we did use a cache mesh right there. You can see we meshed and then we used a cache. So that was very nice to have that cache option there. This one, the lighting here, if I go, first of all, let me just show you what we had. We had an emitter, we had a follow geo, which is the follow the curve. Then we added a turbulence, a mesher, cached it, the fluid, and then a speed, NXT speed on here. And if I go ahead and fire this one up. All right, so here is basically this one here. And man, this thing just looks absolutely gorgeous. I posted this one on Instagram and it went viral for me. Like, it's already got 10,000 views and that's basically viral for me, which is, I can see why, because it looks gorgeous. As far as the material went on this one, again, this is a material that was literally from our Blender Octane community here. The community in our student pack here, we have a material pack that everybody in the community gets together and we donate materials to build up our own basic material pack. And if we jump over here to our Blender Octane Skool database, material database, we have it's in the material database number 7, I think. Yeah, 6 and up. Gorgeous little material, very simple. And it's just basically, if we click on here, we can see this is our lake water material. And on this one here, again, we're using a universal material with the color transmission again, and set to specular. And then what do? We have this dirt node here. This dirt node didn't really work in this case, because if you have the lake water set and then anything that intercepts with the water, it makes a foam edge. It makes like this foamy edge. And of course, nothing was intersecting with the water here. So this didn't really work. And then here we've got an absorption, and this is what gives the thickness. Like, the thicker the water is, the deeper that color is going to be here. And this is the the absorption going into the medium. And we have some noise here for the ripples when if it's sitting on a plane or something like a lake water, you have the plane there. And some displacement also for the waves, just adding more waves. Again, this stuff really didn't come into play too much because of the nature of the render, but the overall color and stuff really came through with the shader here. So you can see the thicker the mesh is, the thicker that color is. And there we go. We get that nice dark rich color here. And again, if it was even more thicker, I think I'm going to do another sim like this, and I'm going to play with a different spline angle, maybe get like a swirl or something, because I love the way this one came out here. And it really wasn't that heavy. Again, like you can see in the viewport, I've got lots of movement. It even plays a little bit if I hit play. Look, it even plays there. I'm incredibly impressed with how light this add-on actually is for what the stuff that it's doing and the particles that we're doing. It's not that heavy. Like, it doesn't drag on my machine. Now, there are some times when like I'm into making things, and once you add that mesher in, things will slow down. But other than that, yeah, it's incredibly light. As far as the lighting on this one, I just lit it from the top, and then I'm using the HDRI with a little bit of side lighting here, and that gives us that little bit of side light, and then that top just makes it just makes it glow. It just looks absolutely perfect. And there was another one that I tried here that I wanted to get into particles. Oh, hang on, one other thing. I don't know if it was this one where I had to do attributes. No, it's the next one. I had to do attributes. And this is where I thought I was going to run into an issue. Let me load that up. All right, so here is doing an actual particle one. And this one I didn't have a lot of samples on. I literally had them like 75 samples because I just wanted to crank them out really fast to see what it's going to look like. So I could up the samples and this will look a lot cleaner. This was the first one where we started getting into attributes here. So let me quickly jump over and show you what it looks like here. Hey, here it is. I have a bunch of bloom on it and some post-processing effects. It looks actually gorgeous, really cool here. And again, if we look at the setup here, this one was very short setup. We have the emitter. We have this explosion, or it's basically like a fire. That's what we basically did, was make a fire, and we're using the gas from this fire to attach the particles to. We have an emitter, two emitters, and then this color thing also to add in the color here, which I was able to do, which was really cool. And I changed it up to, like, you know, my theme color here. There it is down here. We can add the color. And it was cool is we attached the color to the speed parameters and then attach it to the velocity of these. So the color, based on the speed, the slower it is, it changes towards the orange. The faster it's moving, it changes to the blue. So you get this really nice effect. It's absolutely really cool. Now the viewport is getting a little laggy when I started doing these type of particles here, but it's just the nature of playing with particles. Let me quickly show you what I meant as far as the geo side and the shader side, what it looks like. So if I click on the point cloud emitter here, this is what it popped in. It popped in this what is this, particle info geometry node basic, right? And it was connected to the radius, and I followed the tutorial. He unplugs it and we do our own radius of the size of the particles here. But this is what worried me, because when I went over to the shader editor, if we go over to the shader editor, didn't generate anything, first of all, because I was in Octane. The other two tutorials, I literally, in my scene, I have a cycles scene set up and I have an Octane scene. I switched it to cycles, follow along through the whole tutorial, and once we get to shading, then I switch over to Octane. So that's what I kind of do, just to help the add-on. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think the render engine really dictates how the add-on works. It shouldn't, but something I just did to follow along to keep everything concise into the tutorial. So when I got back to the tutorial side and the shading side, this is my setup that I had to do for this here. We have just a basic diffuse material, and the reason why is because we're just doing an emission. So I've got a texture emission plugged into the emission here, and then from there we just added this color correct just to desaturate, but this is what it looked like originally. The colors were just a little bit heavy and saturated. Here is this color. It's a color vertex attribute node. If I did not have this, it's going to take on whatever color this is here. One thing is take to note is if you click on the point cloud and you scroll all the way down to the data and you go to the attributes and scroll this down, here's all the attributes that it carried over with. We've got position, radius, NTX color, NTX velocity, and velocity. Now, before I updated this only said color and velocity, and then recently the updated, it added this NTX underscore. So it broke this because this said color and like nothing was working. I couldn't figure out why is this not working. Then I went back and looked over here. Oh, it says NTX color. Whenever you're moving attributes around, it has to be the exact same text and it's cap sensitive, okay? So then I came back and typed that in here, and then boom, plug that into there, and then boom, it fires up, and now it carries over that data, that particle info data, or its attributes is now being carried over here. So that was basically it on this one here. This was the one that scared me the most. Now I did one other one, which was a really short one, and it was about random color licks. Let me see if I can open that file. I'm not sure if I saved it. All right, so here's this other one that I did, which has like a random, basically taking that random color information and putting it and mapping it to something. So if we look at this one, here's the geonode setup. Again, first of all, let's look at we have an emitter with a scale, with a push, with an attract, and then this color node here again, so we can assign different colors here. And they've also got this nice little gradient preset with all these different colors here, which I think is absolutely fantastic, right? If I hit play, and you can see what this is doing, it's basically doing like these little instances, and we're pushing them out. And if I go into render mode, you're going to actually see what they look like. Boom, they're just like little spheres, right? So, and this is what happened after I updated last night. So if I go to the emitter point cloud, and then here again, we're going to see that geo setup where it puts in this particle info node, and it's connected to the radius and this, right? So now if I go over to the shader section here, you notice, look, I do have that vertex color attribute, and I have it plugged in, and it's not working. Because before the update, it said color. This is what I'm showing you, the importance of making sure you get these attributes right and named right. So if I go down here to the attributes and I scroll down, bring down the attributes tag, here it is, NTX color. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on that, copy that, come back over here and paste that there. And now we get our color data back here. And it's real time. It works. If I double click on this, if I come over here and change, for example, that gradient setup right here, let's just choose like jet and restart it. Boom, now we've got the new one here. I'll probably do a render of this later here, just a render. It's nothing special, but there it is, it's working. So now you've got the color attributes working and going through here. Pretty freaking cool. Like, this add-on rocks. So basically, that was my experience using the Nexus add-on. If you guys want to get closer access to me and get more questions or get your scenes reviewed, take a look at it. I have a 7-day free trial to my Blender Octane Skool community. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take a look at whatever's popping up here next. Peace.